All right, welcome to Natural Health Improvement Center. My name is Sarah Outlaw. I'm a holistic health care practitioner and nutritionist and herbalist. And my reason for becoming one is so that I could help people to recover from illness without the use of drugs and surgery. So this evening we are going to be talking about adrenal fatigue, specifically things that contribute to stress and fatigue. So my story in a nutshell is that I suffered very badly from adrenal fatigue for a very, very long time. A lot of my issues were adrenal related. At my worst, I didn't want to leave my house, and I was homeschooling 4 kids at that time, so it wasn't really the best thing to not want to ever leave because you have activities and all those types of things. Just a few years ago. Very, very stressed out all the time. Everything in my life was like a train wreck. So if someone dropped a glass of milk, it was the end of the world. I would startle easily. My husband said that I sighed a lot. I was always like that all the time. A lot of headaches, a lot of just overall stress, not really functioning properly. Lots of serious skin issues and itchiness and all that type of thing. There were some underlying issues that contributed to that I found out later on, but basically I had a lot of immune system issues that were contributing to my adrenals being tired, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. So adrenal glands, they sit over the kidneys. So the adrenal glands are right here. There's 2 of them, 1 on each side. They play a significant role in the body. They secrete more than 50 hormones. So they're really, really important for secreting hormones. And there's going to be a lot of information on your handouts that you can look at. We're going to talk about some symptoms and causes and remedies of adrenal fatigue and chronic fatigue. So these are things that the medical community doesn't really diagnose. They don't really acknowledge adrenal fatigue. Most of them don't. But chronic fatigue is what they give you a label of if they can't figure out what's going on with you. They say you have fibromyalgia, which is a kind of a cover-all of a lot of things, and chronic fatigue. Those things are symptoms. They're not an actual disease. So they're giving you a diagnosis of something that they really can't pinpoint. They're just saying this is the blanket of whatever it could be. We don't know. So you have this label of chronic fatigue, or they don't say the word adrenal fatigue. They say adrenal insufficiency. So, all right. So let's talk about the adrenal glands. So the adrenal glands secrete more than 50 hormones, including epinephrine, which is adrenaline, cortisol, which is crucial for the immune system, and weight control. We have DHEA, which is the sex hormone, very important, and it's a building block for the sex hormones. We have progesterone and testosterone. So as you can see, if your adrenals are not functioning properly, you are going to have a hormone imbalance. So most of us walking around have hormone imbalances, and we may realize it, we may not realize it. Most of us can kind of tell if you're a female and you go up to where you're going to get your monthly cycle, and your husband says you probably should be in a cage, then you might have a hormonal issue. If you all of a sudden turn into a werewolf or whatever at that time, then you might have a hormonal imbalance, and then you can bet on there's something going on with the adrenals that's causing an excess of something to be produced or not enough of, and your body's having a really hard time adjusting. So hormonal imbalances are very, very common, especially among women, but also among men. When men have adrenal insufficiency, they may have too little testosterone or too much testosterone, and their body becomes imbalanced. So adrenal glands are responsible for energy production, blood glucose for energy, fluid and electrolyte balance, and fat storage. So adrenal glands, we'll talk about a little more what they do in more depth, but whenever someone has an increase in weight around the middle of the body, like that inner tube type thing, and sometimes it's subtle, sometimes very sudden. They just feel like, man, all of a sudden I just got really pudgy around the middle. What happens is the adrenals release excess cortisol. The cortisol then deposits here in the middle. So you get that stomach that's going on. So you can bet on, your thyroid might come into play, but also the adrenals are an issue when that middle section starts to get a little bit larger. All right. So, symptoms of adrenal fatigue. So so I don't have to keep looking back at that paper. Let me find mine here. I don't want to look back at the screen because it hurts my neck. All right, so morning fatigue, some symptoms. So keep a mental note and a tag on how many of these you might have. So morning fatigue, you can't actually wake up until 10 a.m. You feel really groggy in the morning. You're a slow starter. You just feel like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed. 10 a.m. you finally wake up. Probably after your morning coffee, you finally, people can actually talk to you and don't attack them. So you have an afternoon low. So this is very, very conducive to adrenals being a problem when you have sleepiness or clouded thinking from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. So usually that after lunch slump is usually the adrenals. Usually you eat something, sometimes you'll eat something that's high in carbohydrates, whatever you have, maybe a sandwich for lunch, and you have to have a cup of coffee or some chocolate or something caffeinated or energy sugar to keep you going for the rest of the day until dinner, because you just feel like you're going to bottom out. Some people tend to have a burst of energy around 6 p.m. So around dinner time, you get a little bit of a burst of energy, dinner's coming, that sort of thing. Then you get sleepy from 9 to 10 p.m. Some people will fall asleep in front of the television or just really feel tired. If you don't go to sleep between 9 and 10 p.m., then you tend to have a second wind. Then you're wide awake. So when you should be sleeping, then you want to go and run around and clean the house, and then you can't get up in the morning because then you're exhausted. So that you get on this hamster wheel of this constant every day of abnormal energy type things, and it's not okay, because then it actually causes the adrenals to break down more and more. A lot of people who have adrenal issues have cravings for foods that are high in fat and salt, especially salt. People tend to need salt who may not be having enough or not having the right kind of salt. So you want to look for, we'll talk about this in the food section, but salts that are better for you are Himalayan salts or sea salts, those types of salts. You don't want to use the iodized white table salt. It's chemically processed. The body doesn't really use it the way it should. So increased PMS or menopausal symptoms for women, mild depression and inability to handle stress. Like I said, everything kind of is like a train wreck or a car accident. Little things, you startle very easily. You might notice that you have some muscular weakness, increased allergy symptoms. You may have lightheadedness when getting up or sitting, when you're sitting or lying down. When we do our heart rate test that we do for our patients, 14 and up, we do a heart rate test where they lay down for 4 minutes and they stand for 6 minutes. And then in the middle of that, when they go to stand up, sometimes there's a little dip. We call it the dizzy dip. So a lot of people who have a very big dip when they go to stand up, they will communicate to me that when they do go to stand up, they feel lightheaded or dizzy. And that's usually the adrenals that are trying to catch up to the body being standing. So when you're laying down, your body goes into what we call parasympathetic mode, resting, digesting, and healing. When you go to stand up, it has to switch you to sympathetic mode. You're awake, your body has to do something. There's sometimes a lag time in that, and that's the adrenals are not really, they're like, oh, this person's standing, I better catch up, and you have that dip and you get dizzy. So we do see that a lot with adrenal issues. Decreased sex drive is definitely an issue for adrenals. A lot of women will express that, especially women, that they have a decreased sex drive when they're having all this stress, and because it's all about stress, so they have no desire for sexual relations because of their adrenals being fatigued and the lack of hormones being produced. So we're seeing a depressed hormone level, so the sex hormones aren't being produced, therefore there's no desire. Frequent sighing, so that's what we talked about then. For no reason, just kind of sighing. And then inability to handle foods that are high in carbs or potassium unless combined with fats or protein. So they were having some food sensitivity issues and inability to digest or handle these types of foods. Oops, I went forward. So causes. All right, so we have some causes of adrenal fatigue. What causes adrenal issues? What causes stress and fatigue? Lack of relaxation, excessive stress. The day in which the time in which we live is very stressful. We have lots of things that we're doing, work, school, whatever we're doing, lots of issues. Hello, come on in. So there's a lot of different things that could contribute to that. Sleep deprivation. If you're like me, you like to stay up late because that's when the house is quiet. So the only time to get things done sometimes is at night, but then sleep kind of goes by the wayside, and then that can be very depressing to the adrenals. The body likes to go to sleep around 10 o'clock to heal. So if you're not going to bed by 10, then you might have some issues. Something else that can contribute to adrenal fatigue are chronic infections. So people who are sick a lot or have lots of colds and flus and constantly feel like they're getting sick, this can be very depressing to the adrenals and cause some problems. Smoking obviously is depressing to the body in general, but it also affects the adrenals negatively. Poor eating habits, nutritional deficiency. This is huge because there's so much work that the adrenals have to do to balance the body's hormones and produce this and that if your nutrition is not correct, they will be affected very much so. So repeated caffeine, sugar, and alcohol intake, again, that hamster wheel. You have to drink the caffeine to stay awake, then you need the sugar to stay awake, and then you might have a cocktail or something in the evening. This constant round and round is very, very depleting to the adrenals. Organ dysfunction. Adrenals are hooked to all the other endocrine organs. Can you hand me that thyroid one, the endocrine links? Let me show it to me earlier. It says thyroid in the middle, and then it has like the web, if you can find it. Mm-hmm. All the endocrine organs are connected. If one goes down, they all go down. So I'm going to show you a little printout of what that looks like. All right, so we've got the thyroid in the middle, you have adrenals up here, and every single other endocrine organ is connected. So if the hypothalamus and the pituitary, they run the show, and the thyroid is obviously a huge part of it, but the adrenals also are important as well. And then we have brain function, that's in charge, the adrenals are hooked into, and also detoxing. So we've got liver, and we have pancreas, which is your sugar handling. You have pineal, which helps with your sleeping, and all of the sex hormone areas here. So mammary, placenta, follicle, corpus luteum, which is menstrual cycle, and all of that. So everything is connected. So one goes down, they all go down. All right, so the other issues could be toxic metal and chemicals. We're exposed to all sorts of toxic metals and chemicals on a daily basis. So if your body is not able to, if your body is not able to process these toxic chemicals and metals, then you're going to see some issues with the adrenals being affected. Here's one that's always interesting because a lot of people do heavy exercising. So there's a lot of things that do lots of cardio, high intensity cardio workouts. High intensity cardio that is prolonged depletes the adrenals. So if someone is having an adrenal issue and they exercise a lot, it actually makes them worse. They feel worse after the exercise instead of better. So when you exercise, you have all these endorphins that are released and you feel good after, usually. With adrenal fatigue, you feel horrible, and especially the next day you feel really bad. It takes you a really long time for the body to recover from the stress of that. So we usually recommend to exercise, do Pilates or yoga or walking or your own strength exercising, or do interval training where you're doing short bursts of cardio. So maybe you do 2 minutes of cardio and then do something else. So you're not doing all this like Beachbody, which I like for their exercises, but they have a lot of high intensity. Like Insanity is like an hour of like insane cardio. You're constantly moving. Feel like you're gonna die when you're done. Sometimes that can really mess you up if you already have weak adrenals. We talked about this already, but unhealthy responses to stress, or how your body responds to stress, that is an issue with adrenals. We're seeing babies born with weak adrenals. So people bring their babies in that are just born to see me to get tested. And we're finding the adrenals go weak. Why? Because moms are. So if mom's adrenals are weak, baby's adrenals are weak too. And if baby's adrenals start out weak, then they're going to have adrenal stress for a long, long time because they're already starting out depleted. So we do lots of prenatal and fertility prenatal program when moms are having a baby. So we get mom's adrenals on track, we give her adrenal support, and then when the baby's born, the adrenals are fine. So that's our goal, is to keep the adrenals. We don't want a stressed out baby, we want a happy baby. So we really do see a difference with babies who are, we call them NRT babies. NRT babies who are born on a program, they're a lot calmer because they don't have that unhealthy response to stress. They're much more laid back. It's a pretty cool phenomenon. So, remedies. So what are some remedies to this serious issue of adrenal fatigue? Adrenal fatigue can really mess you up. You can really feel like you are, especially the mental outlook for someone with stress and fatigue issues, their outlook's not good. They don't have an overall sense of well-being. It's the opposite. They just really feel more dark, more depressed, just life is not as joyful as it should be because they're just constantly feeling like their body's in a state of stress. So we're able to help that, then the outlook is much better. And the energy's better too, which is, you could be energetic like me, yay. So remedies are adopt a natural whole foods diet. So avoiding the junk food is really important. So if we are able to avoid processed food and junk food and the added sugars and those types of things, the body will have a chance to heal. Drinking high quality filtered water is important. You don't want to get chemicals through your water. So what we're seeing is if you're drinking water that has fluoride, which is a neurotoxin, or chlorine, which most people have in their water, or chloramines, which some districts have chloramines instead of chlorines. If you do have chloramines in your water, you usually will know because the township, yes?
What's the difference?
Chlorine is, I did a water talk, I'm trying to remember what I said. Chloramine is odorless, tasteless, colorless. Chlorine, you can smell it. Chloramine, it's so toxic that you can't put fish in it, they will die. Wow. So when we lived in California, our water was switched from chlorine to chloramine, and they sent out a letter to all the residents in Southern California and said, don't put your fish in your water. So we couldn't. We had to buy filtered water, or you had to let it boil the water.
So you couldn't drink your faucet water?
No.
Wow.
No. They say it's always safe to drink. Well, if a fish can't live in it, I'm not drinking it. I'm sorry, but that's not right. So no, we had to get a filter. And they also said in California there's rocket fuel in the water too, as a nasty. Yes.
Would the Brita be sufficient to handle the tap water?
Possibly not. The particles of the chloramines supposedly are a lot smaller than chlorine, so they may get through. I don't know if there's a way to test it. I know that you can test for chlorine. I don't know if there's a test for chloramines yet. So it's kind of it's tough. Not sure. I don't think there's too many places in New Jersey yet that use the chloramines. I'm not sure. You could probably check with your township and ask, and they would know. And not every district is fluoridated either. And if you have a well, then you don't have to worry about those things anyway. There are other things you have to worry about with wells, like bacteria and other things, but that's another story. That's another talk. That's a whole other hour. All right, so eat 5 to 6 servings of vegetables each day along with good fats. You can up that if you want. A serving size is like a cup and pre-cooked. So what I like to recommend is what Dr. Terry Walls, who cured herself of MS with her diet. Wow. She recommends 9 cups of vegetables a day. That's the pre-cooked measurement. Some of them you can eat raw and some of them you can eat cooked. So if you think of it, it sounds like a lot, but if you actually, and I've done this, if you put it all out in front of you, it actually is not a lot, because if you think of spinach and when you cook it, how much it shrinks, you could probably eat half that just in spinach and have a cup left. Cook 5 cups very lightly to preserve all the enzymes and the nutrients and still have plenty of food left. A salad, that's probably like 3 servings right there. So it's actually not a lot. And you want to kind of eat the rainbow and really just get different colored fruits and vegetables, different colored peppers, different color, all those things. And the reason why we eat them along with good fats is good fats support the adrenals. They also help to unlock the nutrition that is in the fruits and vegetables. So vegetables who have fat-soluble nutrition, so vitamin D, vitamin K, vitamin A are all fat-soluble, which means that they need to have fats in order for those nutrients to be converted in the body. The body can't do it on its own. So if you eat those vegetables with fats, then the body will convert the beta-carotene and vitamin A to the form that the body can actually use. So these diets that don't allow you to eat any fats are tough because you're not going to get all the nutrition. So the more fats you eat, these is good. The good fats: coconut oil, olive oil, avocado oil, butter, ghee, all these types of good fats. It's going to actually make your food more nutritious because it's going to give you that nutrition. Yes?
What were those vitamins again?
D, K, and A.
Okay.
Yeah. Avoid white flour and other processed grains. The body doesn't really like them very well. They contain a lot of anti-nutrients that the body doesn't digest. We have a lot more reaction, and they're very nutrient deficient in themselves. They don't give us a lot of nutrition. So you want to use other means, other breads that are more even right. If you can't do wheat, then you just do rice. Sea salt, we talked about that. Add sea salt to your diet. If you feel like you're really craving salt and you're not sure, and if your water is super filtered, and when your water is super filtered, it actually takes all the minerals out of the water. So if you put a little teeny pinch of sea salt in your water, it doesn't really change the taste very much, but it adds some minerals to the water back in. So especially if you have like a reverse osmosis filter that strips the water of everything, you have to make sure your mineral intake is adequate. A lot of mineral deficiencies I see in this office, so many, especially with kids who have ADD, ADHD. They're all mineral deficient, they're all omega-3 fatty acid deficient. If you have the chicken skin, the bumpy skin on the back of the arms, that is omega-3 fatty acids usually. So, yes. Okay, so then take whole food supplements specifically designed for your needs. I am not a fan of one-size-fits-all nutrition. I'm not a fan of guesswork. I like to know specifically what nutrition we need. I don't like going to the store and just buying supplements just because Dr. Oz told me to. And so I don't do that. So what we do, we test to see exactly what your body wants and needs. That way we don't there's upper intake limits of certain nutrition that you should be getting vitamins, and some people, they actually overdose themselves on different vitamins. And most of the vitamins at GNC or CVS, they're not nutrition. They're actually made in a lab. They are the byproducts of pharmaceuticals. So they're called nutraceuticals. So they're chemically manufactured vitamins. The body doesn't really recognize them as food. So the body recognizes them as a medicine. So it does to the body what a medicine would do. It bypasses the autonomic nervous system, which is the system that runs the body, and forces the body to do something, but it's a cover-up. So you'll feel good when you take a vitamin. You'll feel good. But then after a while, the body says, wait a second, this isn't the real thing, and it actually starts to deplete your body of the right nutrition. So it's always better to get your nutrition from food or use whole food supplementation that act as the replacement parts that your body needs to actually fix something. So vitamins are not a solution. They're a temporary Band-Aid. They're not going to fix anything.
So you would get the stuff like Whole Foods?
You would, if you get vitamins from Whole Foods, you would look at the back of the label and you would see a bunch of food listed. You would see broccoli, and you would see, so you'd see foods listed instead of vitamin A palmitate or vitamin C ascorbic acid. You would see oranges and rose hips,
Gotcha.
and so you're
That's
gonna
how you
see.
do it. So I'm sitting here going, I understand this, but how would I do it
Right,
different?
yeah,
Okay.
the label. You'll be a expert label reader and look at the label, and if it's got food listed, yay. And then be careful, because sometimes they'll trick you and they'll say food-based, and then you look at the back and it'll have a list of foods, but then on the left where it has the nutrition information, it has a list of chemically synthetic still. So it kind of mixes them.
Gotcha.
I don't like those either.
Does it go the same for prenatal vitamins?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Okay. So
Yeah.
I was like, how do you know whether or not you can
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
prenatal vitamins? Okay.
Yeah. So it's hard to find stuff. Are we going on the same page? Yeah. Replace toxic household and personal care products with non-toxic alternatives. You can use essential oils to clean with. There's lots of brands out there that don't use a bunch of harsh chemicals. Get them, pretty much anywhere now. Personal care products. There are a lot of endocrine disruptors that affect the hormones. So if you're using toxic makeup or lotions on a daily basis on the skin, which is your largest organ, then you can expect that your hormones are being disrupted. You're contributing to adrenal issues, thyroid issues, hormonal issues, especially with young women. We don't want to disrupt their hormones as they're still developing. That's a big issue. And also, if you think as we get older and we move towards, we're thinking about maybe breast cancer or all these other things that we could get as a female, we don't want to disrupt our hormones. The environment is disrupting them enough. The air we're breathing and the food we're eating, we don't want to be doing chemicals on our skin too. So we use Beauty Counter. We love Beauty Counter. That's our favorite brand. Works really, really well. And that's the one we use, and that tests well. It tests well on people, so that's our favorite. And we also use essential oils a lot. All right, so the next section is continued remedies here. So let's see how we can avoid some adrenal stress. So we do something fun each day. We take a break. We're busy, 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 and even more busy. So if you can take a break, take a walk, just read a chapter in a book, just something just for yourself, even if it's 5 minutes. It's really helpful to kind of give the adrenals a break from that constant stress that is constantly taking in. Take a spiritual inventory of your life. Does it need some work? Spend some time in the sun each day. Vitamin D does wonders for the body. It's the sunshine vitamin, right? So spend some time in the sun, just sitting there reading a book. We're coming into a really good time of the year. We can actually get some sun. Even if it's cold out and you're getting the sun through the window, that's better than nothing. So if it's a sunny day and it's chilly, sitting in front of a sunny window can do wonders for you. Spend time in the sun each day. We talked about that. Get lots of rest as much as you can. Essential oils are really good for adrenal stress. There's lots of ones that are very calming. Chamomile, lavender, those types of essential oils are very calming. Citrus oils are very uplifting. They're really good for the adrenals. Lemon, think orange, those types of things. You have herbs on yours, adaptogen herbs. It's not on my list, but I added it to yours. So adaptogen herbs, which I have some of them here. Adaptogen herbs are herbs that help the body to adapt, is what they say. So they help the body return to what we call homeostasis, to kind of be even. So things like, they're called Ayurvedic herbs or Indian herbs. So ashwagandha, shatavari, we have rhodiola, we have ginseng, holy basil, all of these types of herbs. If you Google adaptogen herbs, you'll get a list of all the different ones. They're really good to make into teas, withania, which is ashwagandha, those types of things. They make really good teas, and you can mix them with like some cinnamon to have them in the evening before you go to bed. They help to relax the body. And they're really, really good for overall relaxation and relieving stress and fatigue. Exercise is important. Obviously, as we talked about before, you don't want to do anything too strenuous. If you know that you have adrenal issues, you want to build up your strength, and then you can work towards that. Minimizing stress. So just kind of reevaluating your life and say, what can I say no to? What can I not say? What do I have to say yes to? So I told people, because I have lots of things going on at the same time right now, that you're going to be hearing a lot of no's from me in the next 3 months, because it just comes to a point where you have to stop saying yes to everything, because then you're completely overbooked and then you're running yourself into the ground. So don't be afraid to say no. That's my New Year's goal every year. My New Year goal, I'm going to say no more. I'm going to say no. I feel bad though, Take negative people out of your life as best you can. This is really important, but it's hard because nobody likes broken relationships, right? But sometimes there's people in your life that just aren't, maybe it's just for a season, that just aren't good for you at that time, and that the constant amount of stress is not good. It's hard when it's family, obviously. It's the hardest one. But if it's just an acquaintance of someone who's draining you, even if you just take a short break, just so you can get yourself together and then go back, sometimes it's important. So you just be careful of the negativity that's around you, because that really affects the adrenals. It really depresses the adrenals. All right, so let's talk about this here.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
In the symptoms of adrenal fatigue, and there's the burst of energy at 6 p.m. Why is that? Do you know?
They reset. The adrenals they kind of have a cycle. So they kind of reset at I think it's 10, 2, and 6. No, wait. 10, 6, and 12. Something like that. Can't remember. Yeah. They have a cycle. So they go up and down, and if they're not kept stable, then you're going to have the depressed energy and then the burst of energy. So the people wake up at 10, they feel great, and then they feel bad at 2. And they feel great at 6, and they feel bad at, what was the other one? It said 9.
Oh, sleepiness from 9 to 10.
Yeah, 9 to 10, and then after that they wake back up again. So it's this kind of like it's when the cortisol kind of releases. So have any of you taken a salivary cortisol test where you have to spit in a tube and then send it in? It's kind of cool. So you spit in a tube at certain times of the day. So at 10 and 2 and 6 and 9 and so on and so forth. So 4 times, and then you send it to the lab and they send you results back. So your cortisol is supposed to look a certain way at certain points of the day, and you can tell if you have low cortisol at the wrong points of the day by the salivary test. It's super expensive, but I've done it before with my previous naturopath. But we are able to tell if the adrenals are fatigued by a muscle test. It's a lot cheaper. But that's why those bursts of energy. It's the cortisol is being released at the wrong times, and the body's all messed up. So
That explains why 3 o'clock in the morning I'm like, let's go for a run.
Right.
I'm
Yep.
gonna clean my whole house.
Yes. Yep, your cortisol's all messed up. Yeah, we see this a lot with moms. I think like we call it the mom syndrome a lot of times, and we see a lot with men who work a lot. So we see that kind of both run the gamut. But a lot of women have adrenal issues just because we're all over the place. We're spread very, very thin. So we do see this a lot. And it's really important. I mean, getting my adrenals fixed completely changed my life. So, I mean, I wasn't working at all. I was a stay-at-home mom for 13 years. So I would not be able to do what I do now if I didn't get those fixed. If my adrenals were still the way they were, there's no way I would have this office. Couldn't handle it. I wouldn't be able to handle anything. So it's important if it's a problem, if it comes up, fix it. Because then the thyroid goes. So once the adrenals go, then you know your thyroid's coming into play, and then you've got all this stuff, and then you've got everything below it, and you're like, then you're a hot mess. So, yeah. So there's many reasons why someone could have stress and fatigue, but I have discovered that anything can cause anything, and we define it as what's your cause causing your stress and fatigue. So for some of you, it will be the adrenal. For some people, it will be the thyroid. For some people, it will be the pancreas. So it's not always one thing, because we're not the same person. We're not cookie cutter people. So if you look at this triangle, if you pull out one corner of the triangle, it's not really a triangle anymore, right? It just kind of rolls and rolls and rolls. So the same is true for the symptom in your body. If you're already experiencing stress and fatigue, you're already deficient in certain vitamins and minerals. So if you already have these symptoms, the body's already said, hey, here's my white flag. We're already messed up. You better fix something here. So this is a vicious cycle that will make you more nutritionally deficient if it's not handled. So it's not something that your body can self-correct once it gets to this point. So if you're already having symptoms and you don't change anything, it can't self-correct on its own. It's just impossible, because unless you change your diet and change some things, it's you're beyond that self-correction point at that point. So the more severe your symptoms become, the more stress it's going to put on your organs, and so on and so forth. So then you go on this downward spiral, and that's what happened to me. And a lot of times, there is an underlying immune system issue. So for me, specifically, it was Lyme disease. Not everyone has that as their underlying issue. So mine might have been a little more severe than other people, but a lot of people actually do have Lyme and don't realize it. So we always look at that. Or some underlying virus. So if you had mono as a kid, sometimes that's still lurking. Or if you had chicken pox, then you might have that virus in your system. Those types of things. So what we have to do is put a halt somewhere in the mechanism of this triangle. We want it to stay being a triangle so we can stabilize it. So how we do that, and if you're not a patient, then we'd like to explain this to you a little bit more. So we use an analysis called nutrition response testing. So this system allows me to assess how your body is currently functioning and what nutritional deficiencies that you might have. So it's very, very specific to you. So, Laura, come on up here for a second. All right, so you all know the concept of hypothermia. If you come out of cold water, fingers and toes and arms and legs are numb because all of the energy goes to protect the core organs as long as possible, right? So standing here, Laura's not under any stress. If I push on her arm, she can resist me. But if there's something going on with an organ, so let's say her heart, for example, we push on her heart and her arm will collapse. So we need to figure out why. Why did her arm collapse? So all of the organs in her body that are stressed will cause the arm to go weak. If they're not stressed, then the arm goes strong. So everything, everything in life has about 2 feet worth of energy. So if I were to put something in front of her body, like a food, like a carrot or something, her body would respond to that just like she would if she was standing in front of the sun, the window when the sun comes through. So if you're standing in front of your window and you feel the sun's not right there, right? It's very, very far away, like 90 billion miles away. But you can still feel the warmth of that sun. The same concept is true for the supplements in a bottle or the test kits that we use, because your body is reacting to the energy in that bottle. And it's not any kind of a woo-woo thing, it's actual stuff. There's actually something in that bottle. Your body says, yes, I like this, no, I don't like this, get this away from me, those types of things. If you hold a can of soda, a lot of people have described to me that they're holding a can of soda and their body feels like it's pushing them away. So you could try that sometime. The body doesn't want you to drink that soda. So it will actually, or a very sugary, maybe the unicorn latte thingy that they had at Starbucks. Hold that in your hand and see what happens. The body doesn't like those things. I can put if someone's sensitive to sugar, and I've done this before, you can put 1 grain of sugar. I could put 1 grain of sugar in Laura's hand and her arm would collapse. 1 little grain, because the body says, I don't want that sugar. So it's very, very interesting. So thank you very much. All right, so then once we are able to determine what kind of stress is in Laura's body, then we're able to get the remedy. We need to know what she's deficient in. So she might have some symptoms, and Kathy might have some symptoms, and they're exact same symptoms, but I find the complete opposite thing. Or I find completely different food sensitivities, or she's sensitive to wheat, she's sensitive to eggs, but you know, that's not crossed. So everyone's different, so you can't say, it's not hit or miss nutrition. So you can't just say, oh, this person, look in a book, okay, this is your symptom, this is, okay, that's what you're gonna get. We don't do that. Because it doesn't really work. So it might work 50% of the time. You might, it's like hit or miss, like I said. So you might get what your problem is by doing that and just saying, okay, if I Google my symptoms, Google doctor says I need vitamin C, so I go get some vitamin C and I feel better. But, you know, that's kind of where we are as a society, where we want to fix things like that. That's where we come in, is we can actually help you kind of wade through all that junk and figure out this is what you actually need. This is what your body actually needs. And sometimes people come with lots of different supplements, and I don't always take them off of everything, because sometimes what they're taking is that's okay for them. So they might bring in you know, a bucket of things. They'll bring in something, a multivitamin. Their body says yes, it's fine, and they can stay on it. So it just really depends on the person. So what we do is specifically called Design Clinical Nutrition. It's very specific in addressing only your symptoms and problems. It's not a magic recipe or a magic pill or magic fix-all for everything, but it's like if you were all going to get a tailor-made three-button black suit. It's your fitting would be different than yours. Everyone would be different. The end result would look the same, but all of the internal workings are very, very different. So that's kind of how we're doing. What we're doing is customizing the nutrition to actually fit you. That's why it works so well. That's why we had to double our hours, because it's working so well. So that's, you know, kind of where we are at right now. So we have to determine if you are a nutrition case first. If you're not, the nutrition doesn't test on you. We know it's not what you need. But if you do test well, then we know that your body's looking for nutrition. So, does everybody have a sugar quiz? Everybody have one? Do you guys have a sugar quiz? For pink? If you don't have one, I can. Do you have any extras, please? Let me see who. Okay, you want to pass down some nothing and some pens.
Right.
Where is it? No.
Surtout.
All right, once you get a sugar quiz, go ahead and just fill it out for me.
Sarah, is refined sugar only the white sugar?
Mm-hmm. So take the quiz as quickly as you can, and then read the results to yourself. Yes.
Yeah. I'm seeing coffee and donuts. I don't do donuts, but I definitely do coffee. I split it, you know, split.
Okay, so if you drink coffee that has sugar in it, then put that as, if you say, change it to I rarely drink sweetened coffee and eat donuts or sweet rolls for breakfast. So change, put the sweetened in there.
If you put honey or unrefined sugar in, it's.
Then it doesn't count, yeah. Yeah, so coffee itself, we're probably looking for more of a really sweet creamers or something like that. And I'm just going to read the bottom where it says the results. If you answered false to more than 4 of the statements, chances are you're probably sugar sensitive. You are probably allergic to sugar and also addicted to it. The same way an alcoholic is addicted to alcohol. You crave sugar, have withdrawal symptoms, and when you don't get it, and probably feel better for a short time after you've eaten it. And eating sugar to feel better, you're actually making your condition worse. If you answered false to 4 statements or fewer, it doesn't mean you don't have a problem with sugar. You may not be addicted to it, but perhaps you don't quite realize just how much sugar you are eating. Sugar consumption is at epidemic proportions right now, and I know that for my son, my youngest, all my kids kind of have sugar issues whenever they eat too much because we don't eat it. So we went to a fundraiser the other night, and we don't drink soda. My 5-year-old got a soda from the front thing, and it was an orange soda. 1 can of soda has 48 grams of sugar. The maximum you're supposed to have as an adult a day is 20 to 25 grams max. That thing had 48 grams. He went absolutely berserk. Like demon child berserk. Like it was crazy. And then I've seen this happen on numerous occasions with him, where it's just like he's not even there. He's flailing around like a maniac, and I'm like, oh my word, just sit him down somewhere because this is just not good. And that's what happens. Like, who gave him sugar? Who gave him sugar? And I'm freaking out. Like, who did this? So yeah, I mean, I have sugar. Go ahead.
There was a commercial on TV that showed a bagel and saying like most people don't realize that there are like so many teaspoons of sugar in this bagel, but it could be worse than 7 teaspoons of sugar. I forget what the number was.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. I think I did a talk on sugar, and it's really good talk, and I might bring that one back because it breaks it down and it shows how many teaspoons of sugar in a serving, or how many grams of sugar in a teaspoon, like all those types of things, and it shows a picture of all these different products, and then it has like a bag and shows how much sugar is in them. Crazy, like Shamrock shakes, how much sugar is in a Shamrock shake. Whew. Oh, makes my teeth hurt just thinking about it. So on the back you have 146 reasons why sugar is ruining your health. So sugar is sugar. We're talking about refined sugar here, but for people who have health issues, sugar acts the same way in everyone. So anything sweet is going to act the same way. So fruit is fast-acting sugar. Fructose is fast-acting. So some people even have problems with fruit because it's a fast metabolizing sugar. So you have to really be careful, and we test all the different kinds of sugar. We test everything from artificial sweeteners to stevia, which is usually people are okay on because it's a herb, and then we test natural sugars and white sugar and fruit sugars. So we separate out fruit sugars and the other sugars because other sugars would include maple syrup and honey and those types of things. Agave, which I don't really like because it's more high fructose. It's much fructose as high fructose corn syrup, but just not from corn. So it has the same high glycemic type of thing. Yes.
Just curious. I'm really glad I came tonight because my mother-in-law told me today that she saw on the news that this kid had 3 sodas and a coffee and gave himself a heart attack and died.
Yeah,
okay.
I saw it today.
All right. My stepson is 14. He loves soda. He likes energy drinks. He likes the coffee and drinks and this and that. He's 14. I keep telling him, you gotta stop drinking all this. The other day I went in his room. He had candy poured all over his bed and had 4 bottles of soda sitting right next to him. Yeah. And I was like, like, what are you doing? Yeah. So he swears that they're okay, and we just had a talk with him today, and he's like, I don't understand why, da 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 da. So I explained the whole sugar thing, the soda and this and caffeine. Yeah. How much, just so I can tell him, how much sugar technically is, technically you're not supposed to have any, but, bad sugar, for a teenager. How much should you?
You can tell them tell them 20 grams max.
So it's the same for an adult, like for 14?
Yeah, for 14, yeah, like 14 and 12 and up. Usually it's the same. Sometimes it's a little for like littler kids. I will bring it down a little bit, but even littler kids can tolerate the 20 and 25 grams usually. Yes.
Yeah. Caffeine, I think I read online 400 milligrams max for the day. That's what, 2 to 3 cups of coffee, or did I read that right? No more than 400 milligrams.
Yeah,
of caffeine.
it depends on the person. People who have adrenal issues especially can do very little caffeine because caffeine really hops the adrenals up. So when I was at my worst, I couldn't do caffeinated coffee and I could barely do decaf. But now I can drink like 16 ounces of regular coffee and it's fine. I usually go for the better quality because coffee itself is not bad for you. Coffee's not bad. It's not bad. It's what we do to it that messes you up. All the sugar that we dump in it.
Chocolate one is.
Yeah, so you do have to watch the caffeine. You'll know because most people you'll get palpitate. You know, it revs you up, and you don't want your heart to start beating abnormally. You don't want all these things to happen. So you want to keep it down, especially for younger people. The energy drinks that's going to become they're going to start banning them for kids under the age of 18. Someone was trying to pass a law and make it almost like it was almost like you'd be carded if you try to buy an energy drink because that's how severe this is becoming. So. All right, so there are lots of other things that sugar does, and I want you to turn your paper over now that you've taken the quiz. And I don't want to see your quizzes. That's for your own education. It's for your own information. But on the back, we have all these different things that sugar can do. Sugar is an addictive substance. They say that it is it's 5 times more addicting than cocaine. There's another documentary on Netflix called Fed Up. That's really a good one. It talks about sugar. Sugar dehydrates newborns. Higher sugar consumption, the more chance of getting irritable bowel syndrome. That's number 130. 142, sugar can cause fatigue, moodiness, nervousness, and depression. What else? For kids, 140, too much sugar can kill your sex life. So too much sugar is really depressing to the sex hormones. 141, sugar saps school performance in children. That's a whole other talk, ADD and ADHD. So those, again, ADD and ADHD are symptoms. It's not an actual disease. So if we can get the root cause of it, then that diagnosis goes away because it's not a thing. It's not an actual, people are getting diagnosed with it, but there's underlying issues that are causing that. Most of the time, it's eating a sugary lunch, and then by the afternoon session at school, the kids are bouncing off the walls, and the parents and the teachers are like, get this kid on medication because then that stops that, right? So if we can cut the sugar out, I'm telling you, it's a world of difference. You get the kids on minerals, you get them on some fish oils, and you pull the sugar out, and they're like different human beings. It's amazing. So those are some things. So in your leisure time, just read through those, anything that resonates with you. Sugar, if nothing else, if you just cut sugar out of your diet, you'll notice lots of health differences because it's so inflammatory. When you eat sugar, your brain swells, your pancreas swells, all your joints swell. So it's instant inflammation to the body. Anything time something sweet touches your tongue, instant inflammation to the body. So and inflammation is the cause of many diseases. So we want to cut the inflammation down. Yes?
Question, because every time I go to the doctor, I take cinnamon, like for sugar, it's supposed to be good for making sugar. And the doctor's saying, well, keep doing what you're doing, and my sugar's like 94, and they're okay with that. But then they look at the A1C, and they go like, well, you're at a 6, and we really want you at 5.7, so what do you do for that? Because your sugar is okay, but then they tell you the other thing isn't that good.
Yeah, so that's usually a pancreas issue. So there's some things you can do for your pancreas. Pancreas is like zinc. Pancreas is like vitamin B. You can cut back your consumption of sugar, and that will help the insulin production. We usually we do muscle tests, and we see if there's something affecting it. A lot of times with pancreas, if people are moving towards the diabetes type thing, there's parasites in the pancreas or a virus stuck in there that we have to get out a lot of times. Yeah, so. Charlotte, did you have a question?
Yeah, could you say one where it says here for 107, sugar may reduce cell death?
Yes, so your cells reproduce, and every 120 days or so, your body kind of replaces all of its cells. So when your cells start to die, obviously they can't replicate, so you have less cells, which means your organ health is declining. So, and cancer can form as well, because cancer is in the cells. So if you have less healthy cells and more mutated cells can come forward, then you're more likely to get cancer or some other diagnosis of a cell issue.
So if you're having a problem with one of the glands, would that cause that?
Sugar?
Yeah.
Possibly, yeah. It starts to, things start to atrophy because of the sugar. All right, so, so everything that we do, when we talked about the sugar, we do nutrition response testing like health nutrition. Everything we do is safe and natural. So it's really important for me as a holistic health practitioner to put someone on a natural health improvement program and not something that's going to harm them in any way. So our youngest patient is a newborn right out of the hospital, and our oldest patient is 85, and they're all doing well. And we see systematically people doing well no matter what their age. People who are on medications can come and see us because the standard processed products that we use are food and they do not interact. We stay away from some of the herbals and the other things if we have medications in play, but there isn't anyone that we can't take care of as long as they test as a nutrition response testing case, so that is good. So if you are not on a program right now and you want to be on a program, or you want to get a quick 5-minute screening, you're welcome to after the talk. You're welcome to fill out a form for a screening, and I will do that for you. And you also are able to get a half off of an initial consultation for attending a workshop. The initial consultation price is usually $120, and you get that for half. So, are there any questions about adrenals, about sugar, about anything that we talked about, or?
The essential oils, I know you mentioned a couple of them. Is one better than the other, or does it really depend on preference?
Preference, yeah. So if you're thinking about, so specifically, I don't need this anymore. The citrus oils are more uplifting, so if you're feeling a little more down, lavender is really good for relaxing. So, and chamomile is the same thing, Roman chamomile. So some of them are more uppers and some of them are more kind of like, not downers, but just kind of chilling you out.
So if you're looking for, you just feel like you're dragging, then the citrus would be good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can you put that on, I've heard you can put on your feet, or I guess on your,
Yeah, as long as it's mixed in a carrier oil, and a carrier oil will be olive oil or coconut oil or avocado, some kind of oil that you can mix it with.
mm-hmm.
Some of them come pre-mixed, so you can look, and some of the roll-ons, like I have a couple of roll-ons that they're already mixed, so you don't have to worry about it. But yeah, the bottoms of the feet are on the wrist, or even just putting a little bit on a tissue, and then you can just pull it out and just smell the tissue, so you have the aroma. The goal is topical. It's okay therapeutically, but really what you're trying, it's aromatherapy, you want to smell it. So as long as it's on your wrist or it's here or somewhere that you can smell it in a diffuser. I used to have a diffuser necklace that had it sitting right here so I could breathe it in. Those types of things are what you're looking for so that you can actually get the aroma of it.
A few drops in the pillow if you go to sleep, lavender. So that's
I put lavender on my feet. I mix it with something, and then that does gives me the effect.
It does, yeah. It's very relaxing.
Because I'll get stressed out like on Sunday night because I have to go to work the next day, and I try to relax, but it's very busy season for me. But I have found it does help to.
Yeah.
It takes the edge off. It's nice.
Yeah, and sometimes lavender and cedarwood together are good for sleeping.
Oh, really?
Cedarwood. Yeah, some people don't like the smell of cedarwood, but sometimes people do. Yes.
I just put a drop of lavender in my temples, and I take a handkerchief and put some on it and lay it on the pillow next to me or something.
Yeah,
I can smell it
so you
all
can
night.
smell it. Yeah. Look, some people it puts you right out. It really does. It kind of it activates the sympathetic part of the nervous system. It's more of a sympathetic aroma, lavender versus the citrus, which is more of a it's more of a parasympathetic, and citrus is more sympathetic. So citrus is more the awake, and lavender is more of the relaxing part of so it does two different things. Anybody else have any questions? Yes.
The herbal teas, are they good for kids?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's
If
no-
they'll drink them. Some kids don't like them. So it
My
depends on
son's kind of funny about them, but I just
Mhm.
wasn't sure if it's okay to give
Yeah.
the kids.
Mhm.
Because they do say some teas have more caffeine than coffee in them, so.
Yeah, if you're looking at the herb, if it's you just look at the list of herbs. If it's an herbal tea that has like black tea, then you might want or green tea, then you might want to look for something that's just all herbs.
Right.
Because a true herbal tea won't have any of the actual teas that have caffeine. They'll be caffeine free.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are good to find. Yes.
So when you're saying sugar, are you also saying honey?
When I'm saying sugar, in this setting, I'm saying white sugar, refined sugar. However, you can overdo. You don't want to go. in my opinion, what we've studied as far as how people react to sugar on a program is you don't want to go over any added sugar, and added sugar would include adding honey, adding maple syrup, any of the added sugars past the 20 to 25 grams a day. So if you can go online and calculate how much sugar is in a teaspoon of honey, and then you can know how much you could have to, you know.
But then that's in addition to if you had something else, like, I don't know, bread or pasta.
Yeah, that it wouldn't count. It would be the stuff that's added, unless there's added sugars in your bread or pasta. Usually there's not. Usually it's just the natural occurring carbohydrates.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yes.
Can you touch real quick on what you said causes the bumps on your arms?
Omega-3 fatty acid deficiency.
Because just since I got pregnant with my second one,
Mm-hmm.
they just came out. I was nowhere.
Yeah.
And
It's
I was
usually-
like, what is this?
It can, so the two main causes are gluten intolerance or gluten sensitivity, and then a fatty acid deficiency. So that's the usual is fatty acids. Normally fatty acids.
So,
Chicken
yeah,
skin.
So with breastfeeding, like she just said, that could be because of breastfeeding. That could be taken
Depleted,
away.
yeah, because what will happen with a breastfeeding mom in pregnancy is the baby takes it. Whether you're taking it in, the baby's going to take it. So whatever you have stored up, the baby says, it's mine. You have nothing left. so eating fish, eating salmon, you eat lots of salmon. So the fish is good. You won't have a deficiency. Taking a omega-3 fish oil supplement is
Omega-3
good.
fish oil?
Mhm.
Okay, so
Cod liver oil.
Because they bother me. They get
Yeah,
itchy.
they get
and
itchy. It's
they-
dry. If your skin's dry, you can kind of tell. If you have any dryness on the tops of your feet, sometimes it's a deficiency. Or if your heels crack,
So that can cause your
omega-3.
skin to be like really itchy.
Yeah, you
So
turn
I asked
into
my
like a
midwife
desert.
about it. I was
Mhm.
like, I'm really itchy, and she's like, they tested. I forget what it was that they tested. me for,
Okay.
But
Yeah.
it ended up not being that, but maybe it's that.
Yeah, most of the population, most of us don't eat enough fish. So, because we're afraid of mercury, we're afraid of whatever,
Yeah.
or we don't like it or whatever. But taking in omega-3s is important because in other civilizations, fish is a main staple of the diet, and they don't have these deficiencies. So it's just us. We don't eat enough fish. So, yes.
Holy basil.
Uh-huh.
You said that one too. What does that do?
It's a adaptogen. It's very relaxing. It helps the body to stabilize. So it has lots of other properties too, but mostly it's a very stabilizing herb. So it keeps the adrenal. It helps to balance all the endocrine organs, so the adrenals, the thyroid, all those organs together.
So is that better? So that's like a balancer as opposed to like the lavender and cedarwood that are like calming?
Yeah. So the holy basil is something you would drink.
Oh,
It's
really? Okay.
it's a tea. You make it into a tea. So
Okay.
the adaptogen herbs are ones that you would either take in a capsule or a tablet, or you would drink them as a tea.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like a daily tonic. Yes.
They have that at Whole Foods, Lisa got me on it, it's called
Mhm.
Tulsi, is the
Yeah,
one they
Tulsi.
mixed with rose.
Oh,
It's a really
yeah.
good tea.
That's a
Mixed
good one.
together. It's good.
Yeah, rose is a good. I put rose petals are in a lot of my teas because they're really, really good, uplifting, well-being herb. So all the stuff that's here, stuff that I make, except for if it's in a package, it looks like I didn't make it. So all the non-tuna organic stuff is all stuff that I make. Yeah. So, any other questions? We actually did good time tonight. All right. So our next workshop is. I don't have it up here. May 30th, we are doing, on May 30th, we're doing a cleanse workshop. It's different than what we usually do. We usually do the 21-day purification cleanse talk. We have added other detox things. We added 2 different 10-day ones. We have a 10-day sugar detox and a 10-day inflammation detox. We also have the 21-day purification program. We also have a 23-day or a 40-day weight loss program that is very, very strict, so you have to really be committed. But it's very, very restrictive as far as diet, and it's not something that I recommend long term. It's really just a reset to get your body to reset, because it cuts out the fats, it cuts out things that everyone really needs for a short amount of time. But it really, I have people, I have people doing kind of a pilot of it right now so that I can test it out, because it's kind of newer, the company that we're using. It's not a new company, but this system is newer. So the one person started yesterday, but the other person did 14 days. She lost 13 pounds in 14 days.
Oh my God.
So that is a lot, and it's not something, you know, it's not something that I recommend doing long term, obviously, because it's not safe to lose too much weight. But if you have a lot of weight to lose, then it will start to come off very quickly once you start to restrict. And there's homeopathic drops you take. There's like a liver multivitamin with a liver detox. There's a bunch of things that you do, but it is very, very restrictive, and it won't work unless you follow it strictly. But then when you add, then you kind of wean yourself off of it, and then you could eat a more normal diet. But then we have a way, you know, you're going to do more like the Whole30 type of thing when you're done. So you're going to be doing a Whole30 is mostly in proteins and vegetables. Is the Whole30 concept for 30 days. So that's what we're going to be doing. That. So we're explaining all those and why, you know, why detoxing is important. In order to do one of the cleanses, you have to have either attended a workshop previously or come to this new one. So that way you get all the information, because I have way too many patients to have to answer the questions on the cleanse for 500 and something people. It's just too many. So everyone comes at once. We do it all. We join, there's a Facebook group specifically for cleanse participants. Then we answer all the questions in there. That way I don't have emails till 3 in the morning. So that's why we do that. For my sanity. So, any other questions? Yes.
I don't have a question, but I want to make a statement, I guess. If anybody has a husband or an adult son or something that they want to bring, I'm hoping my husband comes next time, and he doesn't want to be the only guy here. So I'm happy to see you.
Yeah, Nico's coming next time. We're already signed up. Yeah.
He wins the prize.
Yeah, and we used to have, so people ebb and flow, and so people come. We used to have a group of guys who used to come when I first started, but they've kind of been there, done that, you know, so yeah. Well, thank you very much for coming. If you would like to get a screening, you are welcome to, and I will see you on the 30th, and if not, I will see you next time. All right.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you.